What's up, everybody? It's DFS Dudes back for the Tuesday edition of the Deep Dive. Today is Tuesday, August 27th. 15 games to get into. But before we do that, we've rolled out new memberships for the site. If you want to go ahead and try the site, take the trial membership. It's $9.99 for 5 days. You get full access to the site, all of the content, all of the articles, full access to the optimizer, cash game lineups, cash game core plays for every sport. We've got MMA coming up. The PGA Tour season will be kicking off again in November. We're in the thick of baseball and pennant races. NFL about to start next Thursday. NBA will kick their season off in October. All sports, one membership, and all of our content for one price. So if you want to try it, it's $9.99. If you want to pay month to month, it's $29.99 to be a VIP membership and get full access. Or we're rolling out an NFL special with the promo code NFL 2019. That's NFL 2019. You get half off, so it's $175 for the entire year. Can't beat that. Full access to the optimizer, all sports, ownership projections. We have partnerships with the number one company that produces ownership projections, UF Collective. You get our optimal cash lineups for baseball, football, basketball. Every single Sunday for the main slate. Every single day for MLB. And like I said, MMA's coming up. We are probably the top site for MMA content. If you look around, nobody's producing solid MMA content. We have one of the top writers for MMA content. NASCAR. Our NASCAR writer is the best. You look at his experience. He spent 6 years with Sirius. He breaks every single race down with Victory Lane and with the setup piece. So all sports, one membership. Enough of that. Check it out, dfscheatsheet.com. Let's get into today's slate. 15 games to get into. A ton of pitching options on this slate. You've got Walker Buehler on this slate as really, in my opinion, one of the best spots. Luis Castillo, Patrick Corbin, Justin Verlander, all in really good spots. Verlander's 12-3, and you have to ask yourself the question, does he provide you more upside against Tampa Bay than Walker Buehler provides you against the Padres? Luis Castillo's in Miami. He's probably in the best overall spot. We know Miami is, when we're talking about K percentage, we're talking about ISO. Miami, the best matchup for one of these star pitchers tonight. Below that, you got Patrick Corbin at 10,000 kind of by himself against Baltimore. I don't like this play at all. Look, Patrick Corbin's got plenty of upside. Patrick Corbin pitches into the 6th inning, into the 7th inning in almost every single one of his starts. I'm not a big fan of this spot. I just don't have a good feeling about it. It's Baltimore. They're a pesky team. They've got a lot of right-handed bats. They've ruined some left-handed starts by some really good left-handed pitchers this year. And I just don't like the spot. It feels like a setup to me. It's Washington against Baltimore. It's a rivalry game. I think they're separated by like 30 miles, the two stadiums. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Then you drop below that, and you're looking at, you've got really a group of pitchers that are very high risk. There's not this great value on the slate. Charlie Morton's price seems to be like a setup at 9.6. You talk about Charlie Morton. You talk about his previous starts. We know the K upside. The video of his curveball has gone viral. I mean, I think he started that two-piece behind the hitter, and it breaks in for a strike. I mean, he's got ridiculous stuff. So, I mean, we know that. Giolito at 10-3 against Minnesota. The weather in Minnesota is prime for hitting today. And he's coming off a 70-point start against Minnesota in Minnesota. 14-6 this year. He's thrown up 15 quality starts, and he's pitched pretty good recently. I mean, he's pitched pretty good recently. I talked about the start at Minnesota. Michael Pineda at 9.2. That feels so inflated. Yu Darvish against the Mets at 9,000. I don't like that. Soroka against Toronto feels like a setup. Mike Minor against the Angels, it looks enticing at 8.6. But it's a bit scary because the Angels, I'll say this whenever there's a good pitcher against the Angels, the strikeout upside's not there. There's just not enough strikeout upside to get excited about. Mike Fiers against Kansas City, Marcus Stroman against the Mets. I'm not really interested in those spots. I mean, Marcus Stroman against the Cubs, Detroit feels a little bit sneaky against Plutko, who's not a good pitcher. Adrian Hauser feels like a setup as well. He's kind of mixed some starts in there. But you get down here and you look, and here again is a guy that I've talked about a lot. And we get to Jeff Samardzija. And I've talked about Samardzija. He's 9-10 this year. He's had 26 starts, 10 quality starts. You look at Samardzija since really July. Let's go back to July 1st. 8 innings against the Padres, 7 against the Cardinals, 6 2/3 at Colorado, strikes out 9, 51 fantasy points. Goes 5 innings against the Mets, follows it up with 6 against the Padres, 6 against the Phillies, 8 against the Phillies, 5 1/3 against Arizona, and 7 against the Cubs at Chicago. He's pitching at home tonight. Yeah, he's pitching against the Diamondbacks. But when you look at Samardzija over the course of the season, he's faced Arizona before. At Arizona, June 21st, 6 innings. He gave up 5 runs. He struck out 5, 24 fantasy points. That's not real exciting. He went 5 1/3 to Arizona, giving up only 3 earned runs. Didn't strike anybody out. Samardzija wasn't pitching very well back then. You look at his starts, and he was going 4 2/3, 5, 5 1/3, 5, 5, 4, 5 1/3. You look at what he's done since July. He's thrown up quality start after quality start after quality start. He threw up a quality start against San Diego, against St. Louis, against Colorado, against the Padres, against the Phillies. Another one against the Phillies, and another one against the Cubs. That's 7 quality starts since July 1st. The ability for him to get you 35 fantasy points and go 5x today at 7,000, pitching at home with confidence, and the Giants seem to be putting up some runs. I think Samardzija is probably the best value play on the slate that allows you to stack up a bunch of big hitters and be different, where you've got Verlander at 12.3. You've got Buehler at 11.6. Castillo against Miami at 11,000. Giolito and everything he's done this year at 10.3. Even Charlie Morton at 9.6. So you've got all of these high-priced pitchers. And I think right off the bat, a way that you can be completely different than everybody else is to go down here to the Samardzija level and load up some bigger bats with a value pitcher. Who are some of the bats that I like today? Well, if we're looking at an implied run total standpoint, you start with Boston. Their implied run total is 7.4. This is going to be probably as chalk as it gets. Colorado, 6.3. Washington at Baltimore, 6.2. The A's, who put up 14 runs last night, they have an implied run total of 6. The Braves against Toronto, 5.6. I really like the Pittsburgh Pirates more than I like Philadelphia. Philadelphia has an implied run total of 5.5. They're facing Steven Brault. On the flip side of this matchup, the Pirates are in a really good spot. The one thing to note, though, is that the Pirates have struggled this year when we talk about them facing left-handed pitching. They've not fared well at all. An ISO below 160. This is Drew Smyly, though. You look at Smyly, a 506 ISO to lefties and a 242 ISO to righties. You look at the ISOs on the other side of this for Pittsburgh, and like I said, they struggle from an ISO standpoint against left-handed pitching. Newman's at 102, Reynolds 152, Moran 085, Diaz 077, Frazier 112. Marte and Bell are over 200, 205 and 210 respectively, and Osuna at 176. They have not fared well against left-handed pitching this year. I'm not going to go load Drew Smyly up because of that. I think Drew Smyly is a bad pitcher. But what I think that you'll get Pittsburgh on this large slate. They've been terrible against left-handed pitching. I think you'll get Pittsburgh very low owned. And we start talking about being different. Well, take a Jeff Samardzija at 7,000. Boston is in Colorado. It's a Coors Field game. Their prices are inflated. Where's the value at that you're going to stack up to get exposure to Coors Field and get a solid pitching option? I think Pittsburgh provides you quite a bit of value. If you look at some of the guys in the Pittsburgh lineup right now from a price standpoint, Josh Bell's price in the cleanup spot today, $3,800, facing one of the worst pitchers in baseball. Marte, $3,700, facing one of the worst pitchers in baseball. Newman's $35, Reynolds $34, Dickerson's $33, Frazier's $32, Moran $31. These are good value prices that allow you to build a lineup with a guy like Jeff Samardzija, who can go get you 5 or 6 strikeouts tonight. If he pitches great against Arizona and his slider's working for him when he's locating the fastball, 7-8 strikeout upside today at 7,000. If he gets you 35 fantasy points, which really all he needs to do is strike out 4 or 5, go 6 innings and get a win and a quality start, and he's in the 40-point range. You get Coors Field exposure on top of it. By the way, speaking of Coors Field, Porcello pitching for Boston. You know my thoughts on Porcello. I've talked about it at length. I don't think he's very good. A 5.49 ERA, a 1.41 whip. He's getting up 161 hits in 144 innings pitched. That's not a recipe for success. He's had a little bit of success recently when you talk about August 16th against Baltimore, giving up 1 earned run and getting a win and a quality start. That was against Baltimore. A good start against the Yankees. He gave up 3 earned runs. He got a win and a quality start. He went 6 innings. He only struck out 5. He is not a value play at 6,000 facing the Rockies at Coors Field tonight. And on the flip side of this, Rico Garcia will make his debut, his major league debut for the Boston Red Sox. The first thing that comes to my mind is Tyler Beede making his debut at Great American Small Park and getting smashed for 4 home runs. I mean, I don't understand the thought process of taking a kid straight out of AA and saying, hey, kid, we're going to throw you in and give you your debut at Coors Field. Not sure I get that part of it. Colorado is firmly in play. So is Boston. But if you're going to get exposure here, where's the pitching options that you're going to get value-wise to load these bats at? And if you're going to stack them as just Boston with somebody and just Colorado with somebody, where is the value that you're going to pair that with? I do like Pittsburgh against Drew Smyly. I think Drew Smyly's absolutely terrible. So, rightfully so, you've got Colorado and Boston at the top of the list as far as implied run total standpoint. The Yankees in a good spot. Cleveland again in a good spot. Milwaukee, I think people will be off them. They got burned yesterday. Milwaukee seemed to be a pretty chalky option yesterday. And St. Louis put it all over them. So anytime people get burned, recency bias comes into play. Where, I'm not going to play them today. They burned me yesterday. Perfect. Let us play them. So from a bat standpoint, it's a Coors Field slate. You have to find a way to get exposure to Coors Field. You have to find a way to get some value. You talk about the Oakland A's going against Mike Montgomery. He's not a good pitcher. You look at the salaries for the Oakland A's, and they're really inviting. Matt Olson, $3,300. Jurickson Profort, $2,600. Chapman's only $3,600. Simeon, a monster game yesterday, $3,800. The outfield options. Cannon in the cleanup spot. He's been hot. The AL Player of the Week last week. Hit 4 home runs last week. $3,500. Pinder all the way down at $2,500. And Chris Davis in the cleanup spot. In the 5 spot. Double dong upside at $2,300 is probably as close to a cash game lock as you can get. I understand he struggled this year. He hasn't hit a home run in what seems like forever. 19 home runs in the season. He's only hitting .220. but he did hit a home run last night. 2,300 in the 5 spot, facing a lefty in Mike Montgomery. This is as close to a cash game lock as you can get. So Oakland, Pittsburgh, really good value spots. The Chicago White Sox are really sneaky as well. You take a look at the White Sox. They get Pineda. Pineda's been okay this year, okay? 23 starts. He's 9-5. 11 quality starts. The ERA is 4.26. He's given up 128 hits and 129 innings pitched. He has faced the White Sox this year. His last start was against the White Sox. They got him for 4 earned runs. He faced the White Sox July 26th. They put a couple runs on him. He faced the White Sox on June 29th. He's faced the White Sox a lot this year. They're familiar with Pineda. They know what he's trying to do, how he's trying to get him out. Clearly showed in the last outing they had a different approach to him. The White Sox, very sneaky team to me today, and there's value there. So, look, the way you go about this slate, you've got to find out where the value is to get the bigger bats, because there's a rookie pitcher making his debut at Coors Field, and there's Rick Porcello, who hasn't been very good in the last couple seasons. There should be a ton of runs at Coors Field tonight. And if there's going to be a ton of runs at Coors Field tonight, you have to have exposure to that. Where is the value? I think Jeff Samardzija is a good spot to get value and be different. And then there's some stacks that I like. I mentioned Oakland, very cheap facing Montgomery. I mentioned Pittsburgh against Tommy Malone, who's absolutely garbage. And the Chicago White Sox, I think there's good value there as well. Tanaka is another really intriguing option. It's the last pitching option I'll leave you with. 7,300. He's had a crazy type of year. There's a ton of strikeout upside in the Seattle lineup. He does have 12 quality starts. You look at his strikeouts, they're down this year. His ERA is up. Struggling with the forkball. But this is a really good spot at 7.3 with Coors Field on the slate to look at a Tanaka and say, can you give me 35 points against Seattle? And I think he can. He's not far removed from going 8 innings against Toronto. That was 2 starts ago. 8 innings, 4 strikeouts, a win, a quality start, 46 fantasy points. You know, he went 6 1/3 against Cleveland. He went 6 innings against Oakland. He did give up 5 earned runs. He did that in that 6th inning. Tanaka's a really good value play as well. There's upside in this matchup against Seattle. And then if you're going to load one of the big pitchers up, if you're going to load a Buehler or a Verlander up, stack Coors Field with one of these value spots. Pittsburgh, the Oakland A's, Chicago White Sox. I think those are good contrarian value spots that other people aren't going to be on today. So, pitching-wise, look, the obvious. Verlander, Buehler, Castillo, all in really good spots. I don't like Corbin. Morton is kind of okay. I get the narrative. I don't really want anything to do with, Andrew Heaney or Caleb Smith or Mike Minor. Soroka, if you want to take a flyer, I'm okay with at 8.8. But then you got to go to the value level. And I like Tanaka. And I like Samardzija. And that's really it. This is one of those slates where you just stack everything with Coors Field and move on with your day. Stack Coors Field with as many teams as you can. Get as many of those top pitching options as you can. Mix the value guys in to be different. And move on. That's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, be cool. Keep it cashing. Peace out.